newsy type stuff and things. My name is George,
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
and with our powers combined, we are the full strength, the unbridled, untrammeled power of unnatural selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. It's a podcast that brings you to the edge of despair and then leaves you there.
Like a good television show.
Yeah. It's like when you finish Chernobyl, that TV show, and you go,
Yep.
I just feel terrible about everything.
I don't want to live on this
All right,
planet
fine.
anymore.
Like
Yeah.
Thanks, HBO.
Yeah, episodes of BoJack Horseman. Just take me to the dark place, and then instead of let's wrap it all
Yep.
up in the end so we can start the next
Yep.
episode fresh. No, you're gonna leave me there, and I'm just gonna stare at the credits for a while and reevaluate my life.
And we'll have some jokes along the way. Don't get me wrong. That you'll laugh a couple of times, and then by the end of it, you'll just want to go to the woods, which is generally how I feel increasingly on a day-to-day basis.
True.
Go to the woods with
Hey,
Adam
Go to the
Doreen.
woods.
With petrol prices at the moment, good luck getting there.
Well, you have
Adam.
to walk.
Well, yeah,
We'll
I'd
get
have to
there.
walk. I'd have to walk to the woods. Good call. So I've got a good backpack, so we'll strap in. So
Strap
top
in.
of strapping in. The US is strapped in for their forever war because it's becoming increasingly likely that it will in fact be a forever war.
And something which Trump doesn't seem to get is that
Yeah.
he's like, well, we basically won the war. Everything's great. We did it. And we could keep going, and we maybe will keep going, but we could also stop it because we won. And it's like, we basically won in the first hour, he says. It's like, yeah, but I don't think you understand, though, that Iran
Still
also
exists.
gets a vote
Yeah.
as to whether this continues to be a war. Like, just because you go, well, this is all looking pretty fucked up, I guess I'm going to go home, like, doesn't mean that the Iranians are going to, like, stop bombing US military installations in the Gulf or stop attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz or keep, attacking all of their, like, things that make the economy go around the world. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like they also get a say in whether this war is over. And given that the new Ayatollah had his father, his wife, I think some of his
But
children,
half of his family. Yeah.
half of his family
yeah.
has just been murdered by the Americans and the Israelis. I don't think he's necessarily.
He's
in
going to cut a deal,
position-
bro. He's got to cut a sick deal. It's going to be the best deal.
Yeah,
Really want to
it's
make a deal
not
after
the
all that.
typical kind of negotiating headspace that one would like
Yeah,
one's
which,
adversary to be in.
Which
Typically,
chapter in the Art of the Deal covered this? Like when, in all his Art of the Deal sort of stuff, was any of it involved? Like, oh, so first you murder half their family.
first
Okay.
of all, kill everyone.
Yep.
Step 3, profit.
It's really easy at the negotiating table. Everybody's dead.
Everybody's gone.
Everybody's gone.
Yeah, so we're at the stage now of this conflict where, sure, the US has, the US and Israel, we should mention a large part of this is being fought by Israel. Look, some reports are saying that 80% of, the air defenses in Iran are now out of commission. But by the same token, the offensive capability of launching drones by the Iranians is still active. They can still launch unmanned boats to take out ships. They've still got mine laying capability, which they haven't actually used yet.
Well, yeah,
and
there
they've
have been
obviously
reports
got
that maybe they are using it. It doesn't take a lot to lie a mine on a small boat, right? Like you don't need a navy in order to do that. That's why they attacked their navy in the first place, right?
Yeah. So basically, for all the talk around, things are fine by the administration. They're not. They talked. We've talked about them attacking data centers. We've talked about, how for instance, there are so many ramifications and consequences, global ramifications and consequences, because of this conflict that we're just not. Well, we are thinking about, but I don't think people understand how serious they are.
Other grown-ups are thinking about it, just no one in the Trump administration.
Yeah.
I listened to a whole episode on Bloomberg this week where they were just talking about the effect of the paucity of natural gas and what that's going to do to fertilizer and crop yields and, farmers being able to afford to plant crops. And now is the worst possible time of the year for the northern hemisphere with, in terms of like constraining supply of fertilizer, because now is when
It's
everyone
coming
is
into spring. Yep.
planting
spring and
and
summer.
yeah,
and,
so
it's the ideal growing condition.
yeah, it's just like this is one tiny discrete aspect of this conflict, and that is going to have massive second, third, fourth order consequences that reverberate through the global economy just based on this one thing. Like, forget the petrol and the Strait of Hormuz
And all the people just
and all the
dead.
people there. Yeah, never mind the people dying. Yeah, it's obviously
Yeah.
Bloomberg, so it's an economic lens. But yes, all of the needless, death and suffering as well it should be a consideration, and doesn't seem to be.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, the adults are thinking about all this sort of stuff, but just not Donald Trump and Pete, no fat chicks in the military except who like
No beardos.
are the ones who actually can do anything about
Pete
it.
Pete Keg's breath, as he's being called online, which I appreciate.
I hadn't
Like-
heard that. That's good.
That's
I
good.
like it.
Like tourism to the Gulf has pretty much dried up now.
I think that might be over for
yeah.
the short to medium term, as like
Well,
come to Dubai, Habibi. That's like, well, probably not anymore. Like, probably not right now, or maybe ever again.
Yeah. I've been watching a bit of Diary of the CEO, and they had I can't remember the gentleman's name.
This is a podcast or it's a YouTube series.
It's a YouTube podcast. He's a big podcaster, but he had a guest on, and I can't remember the guest's name, but he's a sort of policy sort of dude,
Advisor.
expert, yes. And yeah, one of the things he was saying was that like 10% of some of these countries' GDP is tourism. Like these
Yeah.
are major transport hubs. And after 9/11, it took 2 years for air travel to return to normal, to the US, for instance, right? Like after COVID, it took however many years for things to scale back up again. So and sort of return to something. But even now, we're still feeling the effects, I would argue, of COVID.
The
in
Trump
terms of
administration
airline
has been
fares.
described as a rolling supply shock to the global economy. Like
It's
everything
just-
he does between tariffs
Yeah.
and the war in Iran and all of these other military engagements, in Venezuela and everything, it's just like a rolling supply shock to the
Yep.
global economy.
Yeah.
To like on the level of COVID.
Yep.
So if you're worried about inflation, which seems to be the chief domestic political concern of the Trump administration, or at least it should be, it's the thing that people are most angry about. You would not be doing all of the things that you are doing, because all of this is going to negatively impact inflation. If natural gas and fertilizer and petrol, these are the input costs for most goods that exist, and the
And
transport of those goods
yeah.
across the world. If all of the costs, shipping costs are up 500% somewhere, I saw, because there's so much more risk involved.
Yeah.
Like if all the costs of it or the inputs for everything go up, well, that's going to get passed on to the consumer, and that ends up in inflation, right?
That's exactly what happened in COVID. It's like,
Yeah.
it costs, now 7 times as much to transport whatever it may be, boxes, I don't know, apples, whatever it may be, across from one part of the world to the other. So therefore, you're either going to pay a shitload for them, or you're not getting them at all. We've been through this before, but the difference is that this is it's a man-made,
unnecessarily,
unnecessarily
self-imposed. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, they're saying that, or the estimates are that the first 2 weeks of the war, 2 weeks or week.
Well, the
2
headline
weeks.
talks about the first week. So yeah, that the
6
the
days
Pentagon,
alone. Yeah.
the Pentagon have told people in Capitol Hill in the States that it cost about 11.3 billion, I presume, US dollars for the first 6 days of the war.
So
Which-
less than a week.
Yeah, I mean, and
Just getting started, baby.
Yeah, we've said this constantly over the past 15 years, but it's like that no one ever wonders where this money comes from. Yeah, we have 12 billion just to blow on 6 days of carnage in another country, but no, wait, welfare? Oh,
Can I have healthcare now, please?
Yeah, healthcare.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's the Mr. Burns thing in The Simpsons. If I'm just quite strapped for cash, and then the roof collapses and gold just falls
Gold
on
and
him.
treasure just drops down.
Just
Yeah.
drops out
It
of
is so
nowhere.
funny. And we've talked about it on the show before, where it's like when anything comes, when anything is suggested with regards to social spending, it's how we're going to pay for it.
Yep.
But when it comes to engaging in an illegal, unconstitutional war of choice against an enemy for unspecified reasons, all of a sudden there's always money in the banana stand. There's always money in the Pentagon for that.
Yeah.
But like the amount of money that they spent in the first week, we have to assume that it's substantially more than that now, 2 weeks in. Yeah, it was $11.3 billion
presumably.
would have more than covered all of the Obamacare subsidies.
Yep.
That the Trump administration
That they shut the government down
shut
over.
the government down for to avoid paying.
Yeah.
So it's like, and all this money that you've spent in missiles and deploying military
Yeah.
assets and all this sort of shit, more than $1 billion a day, you could just spend that on your citizens. Clearly the money's in the till. So I don't know why there's always this big objection to looking after your own citizens. But when it comes to bombing brown people, there's
it doesn't kill
infinite
enough
money.
foreigners, George. It doesn't kill enough foreigners to fund those things.
You'd be better off just sending them $11.3 billion, and then they'd hate you less.
So why are we doing this? The big question is why. So it's quite clear that
because Australia is involved, as it turns out.
Yeah, we are involved, but everyone's involved to a certain extent. So there's obviously no strategy.
What?
And if there is a strategy, they're not saying it. The probable strategy that they're not talking about, or the strategic objective, is they're actually worried about nuclear material being somewhere in the fly, so to speak. So obviously they were worried about a bomb, and that's why they bombed them. If you remember 6 months ago, whether or not they should have actually been, we don't really know. I mean, they told us they were building a bomb. Maybe they were. But now, obviously, since they were attacked,
some level of enriched uranium, we don't know. Yeah, exactly how enriched, but
these are all consequences that the Trump started back when he ripped up the original nuclear deal. But anyway,
the JCPOA,
yeah. But either way, once they were attacked, and they were attacked, if you remember back in it was a sort of couple of weeks in I think it was June last year.
It was June or July last year. Yeah.
So there's about 880 pounds of uranium, which the intelligence agencies believe has been enriched to a 60% purity. So not quite weapons grade. Weapons grade is 90+%, something like that from recollection.
Yep.
But the idea is that if it was enriched further, then it could be used as the basis for a nuclear bomb.
Or you can do some sort of dirty bomb thing.
Or dirty bomb.
And here's the thing, right? So we don't know where a lot of that material is.
No, yeah,
And
well,
we don't.
they know. So the Iranians obviously know where it is.
We being the West.
We being
the
the
West doesn't know where it is.
I hope the Iranians know where it is, or otherwise, if everyone's like, "Oh, have you checked behind the fridge?" Is it
Yeah. So the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi confirmed that the agency has no current information on the whereabouts of this material and has been unable to resume inspections since Iran suspended cooperation after the strikes in June of last year.
But the point being is, we attacked them, so of course now they're going to want to probably quickly get some sort of.
Well, this is something we talked about
together.
after the show the other day. It's clearly the message for Iran and other countries around the world that are oppositional.
North Korea did it. We're not messing with North Korea.
Right. Is that the message is get nukes, because if you have nukes, then the United States can't really fuck with you
They'll be,
to the extent that
or at least they'll be more careful about fucking with you.
right.
Yeah.
So it's what Trump has done in the effort to nominally stop proliferation. What he's actually done is created a new global logic that incentivizes nuclear proliferation. Right. He's made everything much worse for everyone because now the calculus has changed.
Now, they're not saying that. Obviously, after those strikes happened last year, the public line was, we're all safe, we sorted it out, don't worry about it.
We wiped him out, they were completely obliterated, wiped off the face of the earth. Actually, there's 400 kilos of nuclear material buried in there somewhere, and someone can feasibly get their hands on it and build a nuke. We're going to war with Iran. I thought we obliterated everything. Don't worry about it. You're thinking about it. Don't think about it.
Yeah. Now, they were, before this operation, as this military build-up was taking place, they were trying to negotiate with them. Allegedly, a deal was somewhere close to being finalized, and then the Israelis were like, nope, we're going to just go in. And then, because the Israelis went in, this is all sort of allegedly, but you can sort of tie the dots together, right? The Israelis went in, so the Americans also went in. Marco Rubio kind of said that without saying it in a press conference the other week. So now we're in a situation.
Said what? Say that again.
Marco Rubio said that, well, the reason why we went is because the Israelis want to go in, so we had
Oh
to go
yeah.
in.
And then they said, no, that's not why. It's just saying
Yeah.
that's why we went in right now is because the
Yeah.
Israelis went in. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, like he said the quiet part out
Yeah.
loud. Everyone was like,
And keep in
yeah,
mind, the Israelis...
Israel's obviously dictating terms here,
Yeah.
right?
um,
Netanyahu went and said,
Yeah.
it's the realization of my 40-year dream to be invading Iran. I was like, that's what you were dreaming about when you were 20? I was dreaming about getting a girlfriend. And you're dreaming about bombing Iran? What fucking psychos do we have in the government? Oh my God.
So Israeli politics aside, not to mention also what's happened over the last 2 weeks is, Israel is like reinvaded southern Lebanon. They are bombing Beirut. There are 700,000 people displaced in Beirut.
Yeah, don't look
Keep
at
in
this
mind-
war. We got this other war going on here. We don't know.
Because,
what are looking at?
the threat from Hezbollah, even though Hezbollah were meant to be dealt with this massive pager attack they did, last year or the year before, whatever it was. Like the thing is, like, you can never... This is another thing from this Diary of the CEO podcast that I watched, right? Like, there's this thing that this guy's created called the escalation trap, which is not a new concept, right?
It's victory
just-
disease is what what historians call it. When Alexander the Great gets like so horny for victories, he keeps going victory after victory until he ends up fucking killing himself.
Well,
right?
it's what happened in the Vietnam War. It's like, well, you go in, you have a strategy, and you achieve, or at least you have some vague strategic objective. In this case here, let's get rid of their nuclear material. Politics play into that as well.
I mean,
Anyway,
I guess we can back into that as a rationale for all of
Well, I
this.
mean,
sure.
the thing otherwise we don't know, right? Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense.
Something
Like,
about
why are we
oil.
doing this?
We're gonna take the oil. I
Doesn't
don't
make
know.
any sense. It's the only thing that makes sense in my mind.
Honestly, vibes based. So much of it is just like axis of evil. That's what George Bush
Yeah.
said. They're the axis of
Yeah.
evil because they don't like us, the Galactic Empire. So if they're not on our side, they're on the other side, and that makes them all evil, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe Iran in particular has a really good reason not to like the American empire because it's successfully overthrown their country and plunged them into chaos several times over the last century. You know what I mean? Like,
So they achieved tactical success. They do the strikes last year, but they don't actually complete their objective because they don't actually know. And now they actually know less because the facilities are all bombed.
if only you had
The Iranians have gone
IAEA
underground.
inspectors in
There's
there,
been a
like under the
purge.
JCPOA,
Anyway.
where you could see what the fucking status of their nuclear fucking fissile material is.
So now we know less, and the question mark still remains. So now here we are, 6 months later, and they've decided we're going to go back in again, and they're bombing everything. But obviously, you can't really achieve, like, it's an escalation to try and sort of achieve something. But it's just like to bomb harder doesn't actually get you anywhere, which again is what happened in Vietnam. We'll just send more troops. We'll bomb things more.
Bomb me harder, daddy.
Doesn't actually change anything. And now there's been a sideways escalation with the fact that Iran is now hitting all of the Gulf states, and now it's affecting the entire world. I guess the third step, stage 3, which is what this guy outlined on his podcast, was that, we put boots on the ground. Which I'm skipping ahead in the rundown here a little bit.
And any attempt, to be clear, any attempt to retrieve this estimated 400 kilos of nuclear material would require substantial boots on the ground. We're not talking about like SEAL Team 6 going in and taking out Osama bin Laden.
No, you're
We're talking about
thousands of people.
Thousands of people that would need to be on the ground in order to actually execute a mission like this. Because think about what you have to do. You need presumably some sort of large battleship to take these Marines or whoever it is that's executing the mission into the contact zone, into the area. You wouldn't. Sorry, say again.
It's a transport ship or an amphibious landing ship. It's not
There you go. I don't know all the military terms, so all the military hard-ons are going to get angry
yeah.
at this section.
I
But
wanna say
just follow my thinking here for a second.
VTOL?
I don't know what that means.
Well, they might actually. Yeah. Okay,
So you need to stage the troops into the area. You need to get them into the area. You need to physically go to Fordo or one of these other sort of sites where this fissile material might be. You then need to have a bunch of air defense and other kinds of things set up to prevent.
You secure it. You got to
secure it
supply
because
chains.
the Iranians are going to be
Yeah.
bombing you. They're going to be sending all these little Shahed, cheap $20,000 drones to go and blow you guys up as you do this. You have to secure the area. You need to somehow locate the nuclear material, either dig or sort of drill down, figure out where it is, extract it safely, get all of that material loaded up.
Assuming it's still there.
assuming it's still there and not, what if it's, exploded and contaminated and the whole area
Or
is
what if
fucking
they moved it?
radioactive? Or, what if they moved it? Who knows? So you need to find it, and considering the the targeting and the mishaps with Claude, as was reported out this week, used in the military's targeting, accidentally bombing that Iranian girls' school. Like, I don't have confidence in the military's ability to gather this intelligence. But say you do all that, you then need to extract hundreds of kilos of potentially volatile nuclear material out safely without getting bombed, back out to some other undisclosed location where it can then be housed safely.
Well, I mean,
and that's going to be an operation that would take days, weeks. Like, how long would this take? How deeply is it buried? Like,
it depends on how many sites they have to check. But look, the main thing here is
it's boots on the ground. Is my point. It's very much
it's
lots
still
of
a
boots,
limited,
very much on the ground.
It's still a limited operation. That's unlike Iraq, where it was like a full, a full occupation.
Yeah,
This would be
Vietnam
like-
started out as a limited police action, as I
yes,
recall.
Yeah, yeah. But what we can see is that United States are now starting to stage U.S. Marines and other assets, personnel, to basically depart for the region. So,
Yeah,
if they're they're definitely thinking about it. Whether or not it's reality yet, I'm not sure.
Well, we know they're sending Marines.
Their idea of
So they're sending. The New York Times reported that 2,500 Marines aboard as many as 3 ships were headed to the Middle East. That was reported out by the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. So we know that they're sending armed units out there for the purposes of what? Right? Like, unless it's boots on the ground, Marines are specifically the kinds of troops that you would use to execute a mission like this, right? So,
well, they're amphibious, so like you could either use them for something like this if it's near the coast, or you could potentially try and secure the ground around the Strait of Hormuz. Tom's just disappeared. Our co-host Tom will be back shortly. You could use it to secure the ground around the Strait of Hormuz. You could potentially use it to secure Karg Island, which processes 95%
we'll talk about that in a sec.
of Iran's oil. So there is, a few options there. It just depends. But I guess the point being here is we are in an escalation trap because there's no clear strategy, and either the Donald Trump backs down, accepts a political loss before it gets worse, which he's not going to do.
No, I don't see that happening.
You keep going harder, and you keep doubling down, and I suspect that's more likely what's going to happen. And to some extent, and if your objective, let's say it's not about the nukes and it is just about regime change, well, you're not going to affect that by just bombing.
No, and they've had intelligence assessments like to that effect. Basically, it was some congressman came out of a classified briefing on the conflict thus far and more or less said, like, I can't tell you about the content of what we said, but like, basically regime change is not on the table. We can't do it with the tools that we have. Like, it's not happening. So if that's the stated goal, that's a failure in that regard. If the stated goal is to completely disarm them and their nuclear capability, then it doesn't seem like they can do that either. So it's like Donald Trump. Yeah. This is the thing. The quote in one of the articles is, "I can change my mind within a few minutes," and it's like, I believe him. I can change my mind in seconds, Trump said. So I believe him when he says that. So it's entirely possible that he just says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Mission accomplished. We're getting out." Or it's as equally as possible that he goes, "We're going to kill every man, woman, and child in Iran to achieve our goals." Like, there's no way of telling which way this is going to go, which again causes additional instability in the markets, right?
Option 3 is similar to what happened between the last set of strikes and now, is that there's a 6-month lull, like they back off and we go back to the negotiating table, and then we decide we're going to go in again with greater numbers. Like, it's
I think that's why Iran is making this so painful and bombing data centers, bombing American allies in the region and just making life generally difficult for everyone around them
Well, it's
is
about
to
making-
increase the cost of this to the US
Yeah.
so they don't do that, right? And so
Yeah.
they don't just turn around in 6 months and go, oh, yeah, let's have another crack, boys. Let's get back in there and bomb Iran. You know, what day is it?
It's to drive a
Thursday?
wedge.
It's my favorite day to bomb Iran. Like,
Yeah.
they're trying to make it very salient to America and its allies
Yeah.
that if you do this again, it's going to cost you, right? It will
Yeah.
be painful for you.
And while the Sunnis in a lot of these Gulf states don't like Iran because they're mostly Shia, you know, they don't really love the US. The people in these countries don't necessarily love the United States either. Like,
No.
You know, they're
And,
not,
and it puts a lot of these Gulf countries in a very awkward position because now the calculus for them has started to change. They go, well, if we're going to get hit because we're allied with the US, we don't want US bases in our territory
Yep. Drives
getting
a
hit and
wedge.
exploded. And like maybe they start to re-examine the basis of their alliance with the United States because the United States has dragged them into this mess and is not providing, you know, the interceptors and things like that because they need them and Israel needs them in order to actually prevent them from coming to harm. So they're sort of going, so what do we get out of this US alliance again exactly? Is we get to be the exposed nerve for Iran's rage? You know, like how does this benefit us again exactly? Like, yeah,
100%.
it's...
And it's, you know, it's just escalating. Look, you know, there has been reports that, yeah, the missile program in particular has slowed a bit. Like hasn't been as many attacks, but it could just be that it's not so much necessarily the war is taking effect. It could just be that Iran's saving their stockpiles potentially. You know, and the US.
They know
has
there's
been
going to be
targeting-
around two, right? So
Yeah.
they're you know, holding something back potentially.
Tom, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry.
Very good. That's
No
all right.
idea what happened there.
Sorry, we were just talking about Iran continually forever because it's now.
We
gonna be a
actually
forever
came
war.
around. It's a great idea now. We're
Oh,
coming around to
really?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
change
yeah,
our
yeah,
mind.
yeah. You missed a lot.
Oh, great. All right. Cool. I'll get rid of all the merch we were planning.
Oh no!
You know,
Not the merch.
Stop the war. You know, Simpsons Ayatollah Asahola shirts. Yeah, it was printing all that stuff.
So yeah, the US has been targeting over recent days the manufacturing facilities that make a lot of their missiles and drones, that kind of thing. The other thing they have targeted is a place called Karg Island, which, for those who have played Battlefield 3, you'll know that it's actually an actual map that they
Yes.
modeled from the island directly from that video game. And that video game was about the invasion of Iran in large part. But that
That's
that
fun.
aside,
That's
The,
fun.
the
when
Americans
you-
have been
yeah.
fantasizing about war with Iran for fucking decades. I started watching this film last night called The Enemy Within with Forrest Whitaker, which is
Yeah.
not good, but has risen to the top of the charts because it's kind of the setting is predicated on the US military basically wants to go to war. They don't say who, but like it's like that we assume it's Iran. And they've just done the Gulf War, and they're just like, we have to, like, Iran's next, and this new president isn't signing a massive 30% increase in our defense budget in order to be able to handle this, and we're going to have to rely on Israel in order to fight the war in Iran for us, because the American military is going to be so decrepit, and so the military decides to overthrow the president, and it's a whole conspiracy. But like this is something that American right-wing fantasists have been masturbating over for decades.
it's
right?
been in the zeitgeist, for
Yeah.
a while. But
And
Karg
the way
Island,
the film just like describes it as like so natural, like, oh, we will have to go to war with Iran. This is just something we will simply have to do. It's
inevitable,
Like,
yeah.
inevitable, taken for granted. You know, it's just the American psyche has just been
but it's just-
battered for decades, honestly.
It's fun for all these media and video games to sort of just to try and do quote unquote realistic political turmoil in their alternate future sort of stuff, rather than taking, say, I said this before the show, the Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare approach of unspecifiedistan, but we're talking about it's 2007, 2008, I think that game came out, so it was all like it's Afghanistan, right? Or is this like we're doing an Iraq commentary? Like, we all know what you're trying to do, even though you
Some
don't
country in
say
the
the
Middle East,
country. But they're like, yeah. And I think even then, it's all about nuclear material that they send shit tons of boots on the ground in to try and get, and then discover, oh shit, there's the nuclear material, get the fuck out.
We were discussing offline, before we did the show this week, that how much do these cultural products, are they a product of the cultural zeitgeist, or do they create the cultural zeitgeist?
I do think there is
that therefore makes a permission strip almost to let the politicians do this kind of thing.
Yeah, we're all playing Battlefield 3 being like, this seems plausible. And they're all like, good.
Yeah, I do think there is a certain element of, because we know that these game studios have contact with the Department of Defense and your permission to use like real military assets as weapons and things like that in their games.
Like if you want to use like the M16 in the game, that's a license. You have to get a license from the manufacturer to be able to.
So we know that there are relationships with these game studios, and I don't think it's very much like Michael Bay gets his films like subsidized by the Department of Defense. With regards to like, oh, here's a tank, here's a thing, here's a chopper that you can use, all that sort of stuff. I do think that there is a certain amount of manufacturing consent for these kinds of, it's like sci-fi where it's like you see artificial intelligence that shows up in a sci-fi film, and and then all of a sudden people go, oh, maybe that's a thing that we could actually start building. Maybe we could have a voice interface like HAL. Maybe that. I think there's a certain element of manufacturing consent.
Yeah, Star Trek created the mobile phone.
Through content, through our cinema, through our games, through our media, that actually like brings us closer to the reality that they are trying to create. Like I used to be very like, no, games are just games and it's fun. But it's like when you literally have a Battlefield 3 map that is Karg Island, and today in the year of our Lord 2026, America is bombing Karg Island. Maybe it's just that they recognize that it would be an area of strategic import in the case of a conflict. Well, but maybe it's kind of like driving us closer towards that conflict by creating that in media and making it fun and glamorizing it. Like,
especially if between keg stands, Pete Hegseth in college is playing Battlefield. I don't know how old Pete Hegseth is. He might have been well out of university by this point, but playing Battlefield 3, going like, yeah.
Woo! And you know these guys do. The American military guys do play COD. They do play Battlefield. Like, it is.
They have a lot of downtime.
The US military does like COD live stream recruitment drives, like all that sort of stuff. They had fucking Air Force
America's Army
recruitment people outside of like screenings of Top Gun.
Yeah, like, Department of Defense literally like sponsors Twitch streams and things like that. So it's not so out there to think like maybe. American media, American content is probably like the last real American industry. To think that it's building towards something and creating the narrative, seeding the ground for the things that it wants to accomplish militarily, I don't think is actually that out of pocket, right?
So what we're saying is it's all Electronic Arts' fault?
Yeah.
Most of it.
The most hated company in America several years running a while ago. But also
that's only because people don't know about Palantir, really.
Yeah, right. When we're all on for Battlefield 6 later tonight.
I will
let's play it.
We're still going to jump on and play.
Yeah, we are.
Cool. I will be free.
I think they're actually bringing this map back, apparently.
Oh my god.
No, not really.
Oh my god.
I don't know if they are. If they were, they're not now.
Could you imagine?
Oh my god. So anyway, Donald Trump
do it live. Invade alongside the troops.
Donald Trump put out the most batshit tweet. I mean, they're all batshit tweets.
When? Which one? I don't even know which one you're talking about.
The other day, it's just like the way he talked about Karg Island and the strikes on Karg Island was unhinged. But basically, so Karg Island, it's responsible for about 90% of the country's oil passing through that hub, right? So they take it from all the drilling sites, I guess, around Iran, and then they'll pass it through that location either as I'm not sure if it's a refinery
it's
or
an
if it's
export
more of
terminal.
a distribution center.
So the idea is the oil flows through to there, and then because there's a really deep water port right next to it, you can load it up onto ships and then shoot it out, right? So it's a really key part of the Iranian oil export infrastructure.
Yeah.
So the idea, I guess, from the Trump administration officials and the people who've war gamed this out at the Pentagon would be that if you can take Karg Island, then you can choke off the financial means of the financial flows into Iran that are propping up the regime. potentially.
Now, I mean, either way, there's no ships. There's very few ships leaving the Gulf anyway.
Going through the Strait
But-
of Hormuz at the moment because of,
Yeah.
the bombings.
So the Americans took out all the defense.
Oh, did you see Pete
allegedly.
Hegseth's? Sorry to interrupt. Did you see that Pete Hegseth comment about this? Did I say this to you guys? Where it's like, oh, the Strait of Hormuz is open. It's just,
In
we
theory.
just got to like stop the bombings and then it'll be open. It's like, yeah, that means it's closed, Pete. Like, but except for the drones and the mines, like it's open. It's all good. It's like, no, that's not what that means.
There was a cabinet secretary the other day tweeted like the US has successfully escorted a ship through the strait, and he like deleted it like half an hour afterwards because obviously they hadn't done that.
But
in fact, there
escorting
has
ships
been.
is not like, you can't just like send
Well, this is what
some
they're talking
Marines
about.
alongside a ship and they'll like, like it's
Well,
not
you
as
can.
simple as.
Well, no, you can. It's not simple, but like you could in theory have a convoy where you've got air defenses set up, but like
What
the odds
ship is
of-
going to take that risk? They'll just go,
Well,
fuck
this is
it,
the
we'll just
thing.
go round. We'll just go round. Like,
it's not like World War II where it's like it's a nationalized what do they call it, a merchant navy where they're
Right.
employed by the government to transport stuff back and forth.
like
no,
in
this
the
is
film Greyhound, where it's like,
Yeah.
well, in order for
these are merchant seamen.
for Britain
They
to
are-
get stuff from Europe, which they need
Yeah.
to in order to survive, you have to have ships going
Yeah.
back and forth, and so
Merchant-
therefore they have to be escorted, right?
Merchant navies are sort of on the decline, worldwide. These are private people that are getting a paycheck. They, from different parts of the world that are working on these ships. They're not going to take a bullet for this. Like,
No.
like why would you? So even the threat of being of hit is, it's enough to sort of castrate supply. Now, what Donald Trump has said is, I haven't hit the oil facilities on Cargo Island. I've just taken out the defenses, but I could take out the oil facilities. We'll see.
Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Turns out I'm fucking crazy.
Anyway, so that's probably been the big development is this island now coming into play, and the fact that it's all just spiraling sort of out of control. Now, what does that mean for Australia? Moving down the rundown. Australia there's currently a lot of panic buying of fuel. Petrol has gone up to, I think, $2.19 in metropolitan Melbourne. I'm not sure what it's like
Yeah,
in Sydney
much
at the moment,
higher in
Tom.
rural areas.
I haven't checked sort of recently. I don't drive.
All right,
So-
hybrid man. Look at you,
Well,
hybrid
yeah,
boy
that's-
up there.
That's where I'm like, oh boy, am I glad I have a hybrid right now. But also, you still need. It's not a plug-in hybrid. I can't
still
run
need
it
some petrol,
purely
yeah.
on the electricity. So,
Yeah.
oh boy. But I haven't checked. Last time I checked, it was like under $2. So I know that's not the case anymore. So.
So yeah, it's at least $2.20 in Melbourne. Now, yeah, as George said, in rural areas there are petrol pumps, like they're running out, they're running dry. Now, in terms of our fuel reserves, there are strategic fuel reserves that we legally have to have, right? It's like 37 days or something for petrol, 30 days of diesel, and jet fuel is like 20 days. Now, they're starting to tap into those very slightly to relieve, quote unquote, constraints on the system. They're also going to allow dirtier fuel into the system, into
Yay.
the supply chain, to help ease pressure. Now, the problem is that the government's basically saying that people are panic buying, which is why certain areas, particularly in rural areas, the pumps are running dry. But,
Yeah, but people are
it's a
panic
little bit.
buying because they need petrol to live. If you live in a rural area
Yeah.
and you need to drive everywhere to
Much
do
more
everything you
dependent
do, you're very dependent on it.
Yeah.
If you live right next to a train station, you probably don't need to go and panic buy petrol, right? So it reflects
Thank
the
you.
needs. It reflects
the
the need
me.
that people have for
Yeah.
the petrol, that they're panic buying it, right?
100%. Not to mention, because fuel has gone up, trucking companies are being affected. So you're going to see now prices, I imagine, for goods and services
All the
starting to
inputs
go
for
up.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there are certain, petrol stations that were just like, well, we just haven't been supplied in like a week and a bit. Like, just there's been no one's been able to get fuel to us.
Well, like the Iran
So-
fuel crisis in the late 1970s, all
very,
over again.
very similar. It's literally the same thing. Now,
When are we
government's-
just going to fucking go all in on electric cars? Honestly, the amount of times that we as a society in my lifetime are subject to the vagaries of oil barrel prices and what's happening with wars over in the Middle East. Surely we as a country can look at all of this and go, maybe we need to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels, because anytime anything happens globally that affects one of these assets, our inputs for everything fluctuate massively. So like maybe we need to do something about that from like a national security hedging standpoint, like is to have electric cars, is to have electric fleets of like not even like forget the environmental aspect of it, just from a like supply chain risk standpoint.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do this for ourselves, right? And Australia's uniquely positioned with all of our solar to do something like that, right?
Not if you ask Matt Canavan, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Matt Canavan's
Yeah,
got solar on his roof.
I was gonna say I can think of one really big reason that's not gonna happen, George. We'll get to it.
So, yeah, the government's trying to say, well, stop panic buying. We'll make sure we'll try and get supply out to everywhere. And they're starting to tap into some of these fuel reserves.
Strategic reserves, yeah.
Now it's only, a little bit at the moment. Now, the big risk at the moment is things like, so diesel is particularly expensive and jet fuel is particularly expensive.
Yeah, I had to book some flights the other day and I got stooged.
I mean, yeah, there's also, the airline industries, there's a whole other conversation there, but, they're talking about, making sure that these airlines have secured supply. So the government's talking to Qantas and Virgin directly. Problem is, while the government's talking this up, and technically a lot of the supply we're getting isn't actually coming directly from the Middle East, it is a lot of
But
the
it
petrol.
affects the global commodity price, which
It
then
does.
affects us, right?
But-
Like if there's less supply going out to, crude oil is fungible.
Well,
right?
it'll affect everything in the long term. But what China is now, because we get a lot of our refined fuel from China, so we
Which is hilarious. We dig it up here, send it over there, they refine it, and then sell it back to us at a profit. And we go, thanks very much.
yeah. we do have drilling, oil, in Bass Strait and stuff, but not heaps. But the point is, it gets refined elsewhere. So China is now saying that they might potentially start looking at pausing their exports of fuel for strategic reasons, right? So if that happens, then we're in a completely different, we're in a different level of fuel crisis if that starts to stick.
Us in
happen.
Australia
Yeah.
specifically, you're saying.
Correct,
Which is hilarious,
yes.
though, because China's Trump has released all these sanctions on Russian oil to compensate for what's going on in Iran, sort of post hoc. So you think that the Chinese would just buy more oil from the Russians, which they were already doing at a discount?
Maybe they
allegedly,
will.
so-
Maybe they will. There's also a black market. There's like the Russian shadow fleet of oil tankers. Anyway,
Yeah, Google Russian shadow fleet if you're interested in a deep economic story that makes you very sad.
the thing is, obviously the world has an inflation problem, and this is just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So not just and the thing is, the Reserve Bank putting interest rates up won't actually do that much, because it's not something that is directly related.
It's got nothing to do with our domestic demand. It's a supply
Yeah.
shock, right? So
they might not put interest rates up. Maybe they'll just hold them. But
if the price of
know.
everything starts shooting up in the medium term, as it is likely to do, I think they'll be forced to. I think they won't have a choice. The inflation is already above their target level.
yeah,
So if it keeps going up, even if it's got nothing to do with domestic demand, they will be forced to increase rates in order to try and dampen that demand. So the supply shock internationally gets cancelled out by lowering demand domestically. You know what I mean? They're going to have to try and find a medium somewhere. So who's going to suffer? Fucking George is going to suffer. That's who.
Yeah.
Young families who have bought into their
Only
first
George.
houses. I'm saying
Only George suffers. No, that's the deal. We're all we can fix
I'm
all
good,
this
bro. I'm all good.
if one Victorian young family eats shit.
But the thing is-
can we all agree on that?
the people who do suffer most when interest rates rise it's our generation. People have just bought into the housing market. They're at, sort of record high rates for the last 15, 20 years. They've got the maximum amount of debt that they're ever going to have. Maybe you've got one or two kids. So if your wife's working, she's working part-time. You know, so you have less income coming in than you otherwise would. Your expenses are as high as they'll ever be, and you also get pinged with this, you know, higher interest rates because of what's happening internationally.
Yeah.
Like it's meanwhile the boomers, most of whom own their houses outright, doesn't stop their spending, doesn't stop anything that they're doing. It's just these middle segment of people that are already getting squeezed that get fucked even worse by this. Like
Not to mention the other thing that adds into all this is that large parts of the north of our country are currently underwater. Large areas of the Northern Territory, Northern West Australia and Queensland have got
there's
a
been
really
flooding.
serious flooding emergency. So, like, you combine that with the fuel pressure, with logistics issues, it's a real problem. Like, this is a real...
People are getting squeezed.
The government... Chris Bowen was in Parliament the other day, and he sort of... He let it slip. He said something like, and I'm going to misquote it here, but he's like, well, there's actually an emergency happening or something like that, or a fuel emergency. And the opposition was like, are you saying there's a crisis? Are you admitting that the government is in charge of it? He's like, well, it's not a crisis, but it's obviously affecting things. Anyway, so this, but like we are...
just the stupidest possible vector of discussion.
are
You know,
you admitting there's a crisis, Chris?
Oh my God.
And as we saw with COVID, like telling people to stop panic buying toilet paper doesn't actually stop them panic buying toilet paper because once it starts, you can't stop it. The only thing that stops it is toilet paper running out. What I'm trying to say here is we are at, you know, if this keeps going another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you know you get countries like China or other key players just going, well, we're going to look after ourselves, fuck everyone else, then, or start to use it to their advantage somehow, then, you know, you end up with...
That's how the global system of trade falls apart. Like, that's how it happens, is everyone goes, we'll just be an autarky and we'll look after ourselves.
Yeah.
And then, you know, trade grinds to a halt and everything, you know, everyone freaks out, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing the government's playing with at the moment is, like, how do they deal with this? But, you know, and we've talked about the fact that the government has had... we are uniquely vulnerable to fuel shocks in Australia and have been for the last 20 years because of the fact we don't refine our own petrol anymore. We don't... I think there might be one refinery still in WA or something. I can't remember.
Getting some calls this week.
Yeah, we don't have a large...
Do you guys do Sundays or are you...
Do you guys do Sundays?
Are you closed on Sundays?
We are the third largest exporter of LNG in the world, but we don't have any oil. We've got a little bit, not much. So from a fuel perspective, we are uniquely vulnerable to shocks, and it's been a problem the government's sort of just like sat on for 20 years.
Well, in the world of globalization, before the pandemic, before all of this, you know, the idea was what I said earlier. Everyone has their own specialty. We all have free trade. You know, it's this whole neoliberal
Before
idea
the show.
of... Yeah, I thought we talked about it on the show. But yeah, this idea that we talked about was that this is how the world worked. This was the world order up until COVID, pretty much, was that increasing, you know, you increase globalization. Every nation has their own specialty. It's all free trade. You know, we do lean manufacturing. We get this stuff in as soon as we need it, so we don't need to warehouse it. And because all of the shipping lanes and everything was clear and there was a rules-based international order that people at least nominally followed, we could get the stuff that we needed on short order when we needed it. So we didn't need to think about supply chain vulnerabilities. We didn't need to think about domestic manufacturing and sort of shoring all of these things up and having local supply and autarky. We didn't have to think about any of that because we could just get our shit from China when we needed it. And so that was fine in the world order that we had pre-pandemic. But then since then, everything's kind of like fragmented and fallen apart. So it's like, now it's really salient to have your own domestic manufacturing for all this sort of stuff, because turns out you actually might need it if the world falls to shit.
And open the door for Matt Canavan, Matt Cole Canavan, to come in and now lead the National Party. So during the week, David Littleproud turned around to the Australian populace and said, I'm buggered. This is a direct quote. I'm buggered. I've had enough. And he basically quit. He quit.
Fucking done!
I think that's something we can all relate to.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, David.
I do get it.
I get
He's
it.
ever said, I'm buggered and I've had enough. Because
Fair enough, mate.
Fucking sick of these cunts. Are you fucking kidding me? Have you seen these pricks?
it's
Sick of
just
this
also,
shit.
I think I sent this to you guys when that news dropped. Of just like, yeah, oh, you just fucking undo the coalition and like destroy the first female leader of the the Liberal Party, and then go, all right, I quit.
See you later, cunts.
Like, why go through all that to just
Classic parliamentary move.
Amazing. He's
so
not
they-
quitting Parliament though. Like he's staying in his seat.
Yeah.
All that, but he's just renouncing the leadership. It's still very funny.
Because the Nationals are very fractured. Like, as a party, they've got a lot of
Based on
strong
what?
personalities. Oh,
Why
don't
do you
worry
say
about
that?
it. So they've elected Matt Canavan, who was a senator, to the leader of the party, which they can do. But obviously, if they were to, like, he couldn't be prime minister, that wouldn't work. But he's not going to be prime minister, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, don't they have the whole thing of deputy prime minister has to be the leader of the Nationals? If the coalition
Yeah,
wins?
but the
That's part
deputy-
of the coalition.
But you can't
agreement?
be unless you're
Yeah.
in the lower
sitting in
house.
the House of Reps, I thought. So
Yeah.
that'd just be an interesting situation for them to navigate if they ever climb out of the deep pit of despair they've been in since losing the last election.
Yeah, I don't know how that will work, but yeah, Matt's come out strong. He's pledged to fight back to raise Australian living standards, and one thing he has said, the Queensland Senator said local manufacturing and higher birth rates were key as he rejected the labels of left and right politics. So I suspect, given
very right-wing politics coded, I have to say, talking about we need more Australian babies. This is the quote. Senator Canavan said the good news was that Australia had the natural resources available to make the country what it, quote, was in the past. Or, quote, all we need to do is revive our great nation to have more Australia, he said. We need more Australian babies, more Australian humour, more Australian jokes, more Australian barbecues, sometimes often fueled by fossil fuels.
Yeah, that was amazing in that run of things he said, that he just said, like, oh, and more barbecues with fossil fuels. Oh, you just had to squeeze that in there. Like, you weren't even... What? You weren't even talking about that.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, I'm Matt Canavan. Fuck, I
Tom,
better mention fossil fuels.
It's very important for Matt Canavan to ensure that all of his constituencies in, you know, the terms of his fossil fuel donors are being accurately represented at all times.
Of course.
But
And
the
he can't don the coal makeup every
No, you can't. There's only
only
so
for
much,
formal occasions.
only so much charcoal one can carry on oneself at any given time. We need more Australian babies is actually a quote that is very concerning to me because I think it plays into a right-wing racial nationalist kind of sentiment there. It's very dog whistly kind of politics to be like, we need more white Australian. He's not saying white, but that's the
I was going to
implication.
say, yeah. What do you
More
mean
Australian
by that,
babies.
Matt?
What do you mean by Australian
Yeah.
babies, Matt?
I mean, the birth rate.
What do you
is
mean?
The birth rate is low, and it probably does need to go up to stop demographic collapse. But that's a separate issue.
Okay.
I think politically, he is.
But then
using
why are
it-
you also against immigrants coming into the country?
Yeah,
yeah. I'd
You know,
want him-
so like,
I'd
what are we
wanna know
talking
what-
about here? It seems like some replacement theory bullshit.
Yeah.
I'd want to know what he means by that because, you know, there's probably
Yeah.
a lot of Australian citizens who have their ethnic backgrounds from overseas. But if they have babies, are those Australian babies, Matt?
So the Farah by-election is coming up. Obviously, they're turning their focus to that, and they have deliberately targeted. Interesting. We thought maybe the one Nationals might be a thing, but they've deliberately targeted One Nation, saying like they're going to go after them and like no, like you're a threat to us. Don't vote.
I'm glad
for
to
those
see
guys.
some
They're-
internal division in the psycho right wing
Don't-
of Australian politics. That's pleasant to see
Don't
at
vote
least.
for One Nation. They're crazy," said the crazy One Nationals. One Nationals, the National Party. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this energy / inflation / whatever crisis that we're having, and it is a crisis. I'm not going to call it a crisis. Plays into one, that election, and secondly, the politics over the next 6 months with things like self-resiliency, you know, making sure that we are supporting manufacturing. Not to say what manufacturing would be my question. Like, what are we actually trying to manufacture? Like, how that starts to play into the political narrative on a broader scale. Because I think that's probably something that you could maybe go after Labor with. But anyway, that's my opinion.
If Farah
yeah.
in this by-election does go to One Nation or the Nationals, I think it really does kind of ring the death knell bell for the Liberal Party, because this is a seat the Liberal parties have held, I think, since like fucking Federation or something. It's been like this, one of the bastions of, Liberal Party politics for many, many decades, right? So if they lose it, that's a little
Not good.
Yeah, a little time bomb, a little Susan Ley, time bomb detonating in the Liberal Party once she leaves. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
And it will also mean that I think, given that Matt Canavan is now the head of the Nationals, you'll see more overtly them sticking up for mining, fossil fuel interests, coal.
Yep.
A real walk away from any of the... Well, they've already walked away, but like any sort of talk around, when we start talking about energy resiliency, for instance, like it'll be about, well, how can we do it with fossil fuels? Right?
Yes, yeah.
So
the Farah electorate has never been won by the Australian Labor Party. It's been a safe coalition seat since its creation in 1949. And whilst Labor has contested every election since then, although a day ago Labor announced they won't contest the Farah by-election for the first time in history. For even though for every time up until now, Labor has contested it, they've never won it. It's always been coalition since 1949, since it was created.
It's interesting though, because if they don't run, you can't talk about the swing.
That's
away
why they're
from the
doing
Labor
it,
Party.
I think, because they know they know the right wing is going to win it. So I think they're just thinking we take ourselves out of contention, and then that way Labor is not the news story, right?
Yeah,
because we're not going to win it. So we may as well just not
eating
play.
Conservatives rather than what's
now the story
Labor.
is how the Conservatives are biting back at each other, right?
Yeah,
it's probably
and they don't need the numbers. That's just probably good politics.
Well, they have a super majority, so no, they don't need the numbers.
Yeah.
That fuel crisis, war in Iran, floods in the Northern Territory in Queensland. Everything's going great.
Yeah, cool.
So we said that we'd give you some jokes along the way. We gave you a couple, but mostly just a raging pit of despair is kind of what I'm left with. I don't know about you guys. How are you feeling?
Tempted to maybe download, reinstall, and boot up Karg Island. What do you guys say?
Battlefield 3 are the servers still up? They must be, right?
Probably. Real world events are making me nostalgic.
It's a vintage game. A vintage game now. It came out in 2013, I want to say?
I want to say 2011.
2011.
It's been 15 years.
That's an antique.
We're old men now.
Yep.
At the ripe old age of 35 through 7. Well, I think Adam and I are both 36, but we're
about to turn 37.
Yeah, we're staring down the barrel of 37, well into our... We're no longer in our mid to late 30s. We're in our late 30s.
I'm in our late 30s, yeah. The hurricane is...
Old enough to get conscripted to go out into to Iran and finish what Trump started. What do you think?
Yeah, true. Oh my God, we didn't even talk about... I know there's probably not a lot to sort of say around this, but the... was it the Treasury Secretary? Unless you guys talked about this while I was offline. Being interviewed, and then like this clip going around that he's in the middle of an interview, and then some people rock up to be like, the president is like calling people to the situation room, and he's like, okay, I'm sorry, and has to like be excused from the interview, and he comes back like 90 minutes later and is visibly rattled.
Yeah, Scott Bessent was shook for part 2 of that interview.
Have gone back to like other interviews he's done, and they're like, this man has a reputation for being unflappable. Like he is always quite measured, a good speaker.
He's considered one of the adults in the room in the Trump administration, to the extent that there are any.
He was stumbling over himself. He just seemed kind of preoccupied. And everyone's like, what the fuck happened?
If you analyze his blinks, you can actually say he's going SOS in Morse code. He's like, help me, get me out of here.
Help me.
Yeah, people were wondering,
I'm not a hostage. I'm totally not a hostage.
The theory I saw going around was like, they're bringing back the draft. Or something. Is that why he's so shook?
Who knows?
But who knows? But just that's such a... Oh my God, like I can't wait for the tell-all book in 50 years.
Probably looked at the projected inflation figures and then wanted to shoot himself.
Oh yeah, that's true. Being the Treasury Secretary, that's probably the kind of thing that would frighten him.
I also read somewhere that Australia is sending, I think it was like 85 personnel.
We have
over to the-
we have an E7 Wedgetail and supporting crew that are there to support the United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
At their request, not the United States. That will be
Right,
a similar.
But who told the UAE to request it, right? Like,
Well, I don't know.
they just thought,
But it's
oh,
a
you know what'd be
similar-
good for this? Fucking Australia.
similar mission that we did in Ukraine when they were attacking Poland. So, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Poland got attacked like months ago. Anyway, we just skipped over that.
It's fine.
Wild.
Whatever happens between
All right.
now and the next couple of days, we'll just bundle it all into next week's depressing fucking show. So that'll be
Oh
good.
yeah. I mean the war's working. We haven't mentioned the Epstein files this week once.
Yeah, the Axis of Epstein, the Operation Epstein Fury that's been launched to distract. All right. On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. I really thought this would boost my mood doing the show, but it has not. Thanks for listening to Unnatural. We are, we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you listen to. Well, how do I normally do this? Fucking hell.
Every episode now you say, how do I normally do
Fucking-
this? It's truly gone out of your brain.
Yeah, it's gone. I'm
Gotta
so
write it
fucking
down.
tired.
Gotta write it down.
So
Make sure to
fucking
find
tired.
us on our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com,
There you
and
go.
follow us on all the social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and mother flippin' TikTok. I know we also kind of are now streaming. Are we streaming elsewhere other than Twitch and YouTube now?
So
George,
we're
with
streaming
your
on
new
Twitch.
Fandangled
We're streaming on
setup?
Twitch and YouTube, so the
Yep,
good thing about
cool.
the setup is that we can stream out to multiple platforms. So more might be joining soon. But
Nice.
yeah, to get our clips, we are posting those primarily on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. And as you might expect, we are getting roasted in the comments. So make sure you follow us there at Unnatural Show. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Threads if you feel like it at tom.me.
Yeah, you can follow me to an underground bunker somewhere because, yeah, that's where I'm going to be hiding out.
Adam,
Can
where you
you-
gonna get the fuel to make the machine that'll dig the hole to build your bunker, man?
I guess I'm going to the woods then. I guess I'm going back to the woods.
You're gonna have to walk.
That's fine.
When you get
I need
into
the
bunker,
exercise. I've been drinking too much beer anyway, so.
could you do me a favor? When you get in the bunker, just have a little scan around and see if anything's glowing green, and just let me know. I have a guy who's interested. So
Make sure you turn on VATS so you can target specific points on any death claws that might
Take
be
some
lingering
Rad-X.
in there.
I'm making Fallout jokes that nobody gets. Love your faces. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.